Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stoss. Last week we talked about letting go, and I had a number of individuals reach out to me to talk about the letting go or stop me along the way in the offices that I work with and really gaining some awareness about the control piece in their lives. When we look at the letting go of the past, letting go maybe of somebody's control over us, or maybe the outcomes. Those are the three things we really focused on last week. So really, as I thought about it before I was thinking about this week's content, it was really helping you think about what are those things that you're holding on to, and how can you move from holding on to letting go? And what are really the tools that I can help you to really use to think about how can I really let go? So we had a nice self-awareness that I have control and I like to hold on to things, but what can I really do to let go? And sometimes we think in our minds that we've let go of things. We tell ourselves we've let go, we've maybe moved on past that person or moved to a different environment, maybe a new job. But then we recognize, have we really let go? Or have we just really pushed past that? Have we really dealt with the issue? I have an individual that I was coaching with, and I had a very unfortunate situation at a previous employer where her boss and her really just didn't get along very well. And it ended in, termination of her job. It really, at the end of the day, wasn't a fit. The organization had changed and their needs changed, and it just wasn't working. But when it comes to that point where you were a high performer in an organization and relationship changes with your boss and you get let go, that's pretty difficult. And so, she dealt with that, took some time off, got a package and took some time. In her mind, thought she had done some healing, went through that job, searching process. And now is in that new environment and has seen some of those behaviors of hers kind of perk back up that she really hadn't dealt with in terms of the other boss. Some of the things now that she's been in this new role are coming up, and she's finding herself back in some of those old behaviors and anger and resentment of really what happened in the previous job versus today. So that's an example of pushing through versus really dealing with it. So she was still holding on to some of those emotions and feelings and anger, and really learned that she had to stop and let go. So that's really, a difficult thing. And if we don't really do that, it's kind of like, we take newspapers out and we recycle them in our garage and put a pile out there, and then we add more and we add more and we add more. Ultimately, we have this big pile of papers, and it's just like it's building. And that's kind of what happens if we don't deal with something inside, is it builds and builds and builds, and eventually it's frustrating. Every time we see it, it's right in front of us and we're holding it on the inside. So I want you to think about those newspapers as kind of your stories and your thoughts that you build inside, and are you holding on to those? Are you holding on to those? And as you think you're moving forward, you're really not healing or not solving that, you're really holding on. So really there's 6 different tools that I want you to think about. First, I want you to really recognize your feelings. Feelings are real, and sometimes we go through this whole blame piece, and we like to talk about things, but just recognize that we all have needs, and we all have unmet needs. But those unmet needs really come from the feelings that we're feeling. So I know, guys, sometimes for you, it's like, oh, I gotta feel this feeling. You know what? It's real. It's real. Sometimes we feel rejected. Sometimes we feel like a failure. Recognize really for you maybe what that feeling might be. The second thing is, if you catch yourself judging, stop blaming, and really take just full responsibility. There's no judgment. We all have different ways of looking at things and seeing if they work or don't work. And especially when we're in a situation like my client who had gotten let go, we start, feeling that personally. And so we start judging others really because of it was, us in that situation. So really think about, stop judging, and really recognize that, there are differences in different ways that we look at things. Third is reframe the situation. How can we take this situation and think of it as, is it a stepping stone or is it a stumbling block? And really look at, what can I learn from this situation that has occurred? It is what it is. It's done. We need to move forward. So in order to heal and release some of that anger so our garbage doesn't build up, is we really have to reframe the situation and really think about what can I take away from this and learn through my journey for my next experience that I may have. Number 4 is really thinking about writing. Some of us like to write, some of us aren't as much about writing, but really take some time to journal some of your thoughts, journal some of your past, journal and write down some of those feelings that you might have to really release it, get it on paper, and think about what that might mean to you. You might see some patterns of things that you think you've dealt with, but you really haven't dealt with as much. I had an organization that I worked with that had some challenges in the past. And the senior VP said, gosh, I have a really hard time moving these guys past this anger from the past because, yeah, we made some mistakes as an organization, but they can't get over it. How can I get them to move forward? And it was kind of fun because we were at a retreat center. So we had an opportunity to do some creative ideas, and we were in the outdoors. So everyone had a chance to write down some of the things, what were they angry about? Anything that they could get down on paper to think about the past, what at work had bothered them, whether that was a boss or a situation or something we lost or something that wasn't supported. And we had a burning ceremony. We had a bonfire, and everybody had the chance to just take that, write everything they want. If they wanted to say something about it, they could, but they were able to try to release that. So it, was kind of, sometimes we need something like that just to make it fun and creative, but it just allowed something to physically move it from one place to the other and release that pain. The 5th way is some of us aren't as much about writing, but we love to talk, and so we need someone to talk to. So find a person, a coach, a friend, someone who can really be an accountability partner to you, that if you're struggling with this, that you can, instead of spreading all the anger and resentment to whoever you run into, which helps no one at all, of course, that makes you a very negative person. People really don't want to hear about it anymore. Just find someone who you can trust, that if you need to vent, if you have those feelings, that you really have an accountability partner and maybe have a few minutes of time where you can do that, but they can hold you accountable to kind of get your mindset, refocused and really, really move forward. And finally, number 6 is, what is the meaning that you are placing upon this? Is the meaning that we place upon it allows us to really think about, am I going to take control of this situation? If you want to control something, I'll allow you to control this. You can control the meaning that you place upon it and say, you know what, this is a stepping stone for me. I'm going to move forward. And really, after you think about some of our previous steps, and you go through some of that healing process, the meaning doesn't have to be a belief that this was the worst time in your life. Many times when we look at these things that happen, like this job situation or maybe some anger or resentment, in the scheme of things, it might be over a period of a year. And if you work 40, 50 years, it might have been the best learning of your life, even though it was the most painful. It's not a big deal. It's just part of that journey. It's a story that really shapes you to who you are. So really, when we look at it, are we holding on or are we letting go? That's the biggest thing. And these tools can really help us think about how to get there. So let's think about our positive charge for this week. So are we able to really think about letting go? So what would it look like? Number 1, what would it look like if you were able to let go versus hold on to this situation? So stop, evaluate, and think about, have you really pushed through it or have you really let go of it? Number 2 is, do you have an underlying belief about something within this situation? It might just be that you felt that person didn't handle it the right way, or something that they did it different than you would. You know what? Why can't we let go of those things? It is what it is. So really stop and say, what is a belief that I have around this? And then the second piece of this is holding on. So let's look. Sometimes we are holding on. And the first question is, would it be helpful for you to hold on to this? So if you look at it, is it helpful for me to hold on to this situation or just to let it be? And what things aren't in your control and what things are in your control? So there's really 3 parts of holding on. Would it be helpful to hold on to this situation? Number 2 is, what things can I control and what things can't I control? So really just taking a moment to really let go or hold on. And of course, the third part of positive charge is really to have you think about those 6 steps and really which ones resonate with you and how you can really get started. So in closing today, life is a journey, and sometimes we think there's like a right way to do things, and there really is no right or wrong. It's the learning that we take from each of these moments of whether we're holding on to something or trying to control. It's how we can release those things and ultimately feel better. These things are really, there's this piece of holding on, that it's holding us back. It's holding us back from that level of success that we can have, and it's really paralyzing some of us. And there's just this freeing opportunity for you to have if you've experienced letting something go. So take some time to really think about what that means for you and how much freeing it can be for you to let go. So in closing, the quote I have for you today: all the art of living lies in the fine mingling of letting go and holding on, by Henry Ellis. All the art of living lies in a fine mingling of letting go and holding on. So I hope you can think about your journey and the art of fine living for you. Thanks for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.